Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear. Driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere I swear. Like an outlaw on the run, dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running, no. Keep running.
Good evening. Welcome to Risen Divine League Week 5, where it will be me, Dia, on the desk, joined by Rudude for Glacial Esports, up against Omega Neuroshock Gaming. And it isn't the first time that we've seen these two go up against each other, nor the first time that we've seen them on stream, but this combination should be something altogether very fun, Rudude.
For sure. We should give a little bit of a preface that me and you, dear, we have previously casted a Omega Neuroshock gaming series on the Omega channel. It was an 0-2, and unfortunately, Neuroshock have been receiving quite a fair few of those over the split so far. Currently sat 0-4 in our standings with only a single game win, and that was up against the Akuma Claymore. So coming into tonight, expectations are Glacial Esports should be able to take this series, but if there's one thing we love, dear, it's an upset.
And the other thing that I love, I'm going to pile on top of that, not just upsets, but miracle runs. And this would need to be the start of one for Omega Neuroshock Gaming. And you actually pointed out something really cool about the way that the head-to-head works, where it has to be a very clear, decisive victory for Omega Neuroshock if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive.
And to sort of harp onto that here, if they get a single game taken away from them tonight, Omega Neuroshock, if Glacial Esports take a single game, then they go through, or not go through necessarily, but they knock out Neuroshock from a playoffs contention. Currently 0-4, but the way the standings are, there is still a small possibility. There's a 1 in a million chance that we can get all 3 teams stacking up at 2-4, and then we get maybe a round robin, best of 1, best of 3, whatever it may be, for 3 teams tied at 2-4 to decide who gets that second place bracket. It relies on Neuroshock getting 2-0s consistently from here on in, which is something that they've not been doing throughout the start of this split. It relies on results across the board going in their favor. There are so many different variables that aren't in Neuroshock's hands that they are relying on not only their own individual prowess, but also other results going in their favor.
And that is why we call it a miracle, because it does rely on so much. We'll see if they can get it off to a good start. They're not, at least carry your bit. Although, as you say, the numbers are not in their favor. If there's 2 things, though, if there's 2 orgs that I definitely think about when I think of being in a lot of leagues and having a lot of different rosters all being developed at the same time, it is Glacial and Omega. So with the resources that both these orgs have, I want to throw a couple orgs in there either, but it doesn't matter for the sake of now. the fact is that these two orgs are definitely in that sort of category, and there is the possibility that not only that Omega and Neuroshock Gaming have leveled up to be able to face off against Glacial, but that Glacial, from the last time that they've gone up against each other, have departed massively. Glacial looked really, really good. I want to say especially around the mid lane and the bot lane. Mid lane especially, I dare say looked uncontestable and unban-outable at that point. And so I'm scared to see what Glacial bring us, and I've realized now that it's not Omega Neuroshock Gaming taking an immense amount of time on the second ban. My pro draft can be frozen, so I'm going to go ahead and refresh.
Not to worry here, dear. Of course, the draft fully underway right here. We have a lot of jungle priority in those bans. We see the Volibear first pick, which is something that we've not seen for a couple, or for a fair few patches here. Season 11, he sort of petered off in priority. The trade of the two top tier AD carries right now, Kai'Sa and Tristana. Neuroshock favoring the Tristana over the Kai'Sa, so maybe that will be a little bit more indicative of a little bit more early game laning prowess that they will have down there. And then the Jarvan, of course, that will be going into Dorjan's hands, something that we've seen him on pretty consistently, I feel like, for Neuroshock, are these early aggressive playmaking junglers. And for me, if Neuroshock are going to take an advantage from it through anywhere, it's going to be through the mid jungle duo. We saw them, or we've seen them try and play around this a little bit consistently, and it's really where they look to find their advantages in the game. So picking Jarvan, nice, getting a good strong mid laner to pair with it and find some early game aggression from, will be Neuroshock's key to success.
Yeah, I'm actually just now realizing actually that because of the fact that Omega Neuroshock have been playing without Dorjan, there's a chance that there's this small bit of readapting to having him on the team. In the same way, though, Glacial Esports will be playing with a little bit of substitutions of their own. Zemsta and Papeng both subbing in today outside of the main roster.
So maybe a little bit more, or a little bit less rather, synergy on the Glacial side, which could be that little key into the successive routes for Neuroshock here. But we are into that second ban phase here. The supports have been picked up for the bot lane. Rel and Alistair locked on in here. Going to be two very tanky bot laners and two, of course, very potent engagers coming across on both sides of the rift right here. So a lot of dive coming on from both squads right here, and might need to sort of see who's getting this. I feel like Galio priority is going to be something that is sort of a bit weird here, but fits very well with the composition. We've obviously got Jarvan on Neuroshock's side. Jarvan Galio compositions are renowned for success, and of course with having R4 pick, there's a very real possibility that they try to take that one and leave top lane for a blind pick, and you can sort of see solo laner bans petering out through the rest of this draft.
Yeah, Omega need to lock in Galio now. Okay. I mean, Anivia, I'll take it, but it leaves this Galio up for Glacial if they want it, and I don't know too much about that specific matchup, but I do know that Kaitazur can play the Galio. Instead, though, seems like he's thinking about that long-range mage.
I really like Neuroshock's Anivia here, because not only does Anivia really do well when teams want to come into you, but also destroys Galio. So picking up, if you want to go for that Galio, you can wall Justice Punch. That's the main issue, right? Galio's Justice Punch is going to be that leading source of engage post Hero's entrance. You just put a wall down and he has to walk all the way around it to make something happen. Volibear as well, maybe not to the same extent given that he has got Stormbringer, but we'll have to expend that ulti to get over the wall. There's a lot of utility that can be made, or that can be utilized when you've got this man-made terrain of the Anivia, so keep your eye on how well these are being used here. We are in fact going to be seeing a slight little flex pick here. The Volibear goes into the top lane instead. I feel like that was sort of a bit of a potential given here. At the higher elos, we are seeing Volibear much more as a top laner than a jungler. So the Talia going into the jungle this time around.
Yeah, I really like the pivot here, but moreover, I like the fact that we're getting a lot of terrain creation here. Jarvan, Anivia, Talia, what else? I mean, we can get an Ornn, a Trundle in here, let's go. But these are the big ones when you think of that artificial creation of environments, and it's something that both squads can look to take advantage of, because, like it or not, the damage numbers might not really pop out, but terrain is a really big factor in League of Legends, and especially with the way these two rosters want to play the game.
Terrain is massive when teams are immobile. Now, Glacial here, they have They have mobility on a couple of their champions. Kai'Sa has got the ulti, Rel has got that Ferromancy to get at least over a wall when she's dismounting. Maybe remounting is a different issue here. But Volibear going to have to expend an ulti. Vel'Koz, Talia, they're going to have to expend Flash. Kai'Sa similarly will have to expend that ultimate. So all of this terrain that they've generated here, or will be able to generate on Neuroshock, will definitely have that key impactful feature here. And not only does Jarvan and Anivia have a nice little synergy within the fact that you can put the Glacial Storm right down in the center of that Cataclysm, and people either having to flash out or just die underneath all of the slows and damage that you're putting out. They've also got Alistair layering damage on top of that. A Tristana explosive charge going off inside that Cataclysm will deal damage to everybody who's in there. So if Tristana's able to get to that late game point where you can start attacking from outside the Cataclysm, that's pretty much a free team fight for Neuroshock here. And to that point, they've also got themselves a decent matchup on the top side. Volibear, typically a very winning lane matchup, but the Urgot should be trying to limit that factor quite a little bit.
Yeah, and I actually, speaking of this Volibear into Urgot matchup and what teams bring that the others don't, Omega Neuroshock, they've got a beefy front line. Glacial, not so much. They've got a lot of that late game damage in something like the Vel'Koz and even the Talia, if we're bringing up things like mid game. Of course, Kai'Sa, we cannot ignore, but Omega Neuroshock, they've got a lot of really big boys to chew through before any of that becomes a reality. And there's a chance that if this composition gets ahead early, that they have the tools needed to close out the game in a very convincing way with the wave clear of Anivia, the tower take of Tristana, and the beef to let you not get to them.
The sort of snowball potential that comes from Tristana as well. I feel like much easier to capitalize as a Tristana over a Kai'Sa, just because you have those rocket jumps and you've got the resets to just make it so easy to get in and pick up extra kills. For Kai'Sa, you're much more gated by your cooldowns, such as the ultimate, such as Flash, and you're much more reliant on your team setting you up for success. Where Tristana, if she catches somebody out in a side lane, she can just kill them as an AD carry on their own. And like I say, Kai'Sa, much more limited in that instant, needs to be connecting on Void Seeker so that you can proc the ulti to even begin with for that little side lane engage. So Neuroshock, like you say, have got a very real possibility that they can start taking over the game here. What I will say is that they've got a little bit sort of less damage in terms of who they need to be focusing. I feel like that they've got themselves two bruisers as opposed to two true tanks here with the Jarvan and the Urgot. But Tristana and Anivia are going to be lead focus here. So if Neuroshock get either of those champions caught out, they might be lacking a little bit here in the damage department, especially when Vel'Koz is going to be so able to keep himself at range, keep himself at distance with just the kit that he has got. Definitely expecting it to be a little bit more difficult to get on top of this Vel'Koz than potentially you might be anticipating.
Yeah, so we'll have to watch the position of all the carries because, as you say, Vel'Koz's positioning is crucial, but at the same time, in not necessarily a champion sense, although I might argue that Anivia is the actual positioning on the map of Omega Neuroshock's carries is going to be big, and whether Glacial can take advantage of those small mispositions that, I'll be honest, with this roster do happen.
They do happen here, dear. I'm definitely going to be critical of Neuroshock because we kind of have to be, right? They're 0-4. This is going to be one of those games that it is do or die, right? To harp back onto the narrative here that if you missed at the beginning, if Glacial win this, Neuroshock are out. Even if they win game one, Neuroshock can't proceed into playoffs. We're relying on a very small, finite chance of this even being a contest for Neuroshock making it into playoffs. And for Glacial, this should just be another sort of day at the office, right? They're sort of battling for their playoff position as well. Currently 2-2, tied with the other team that are in their league, which is Akuma Claymores, also 2-2. Of course, we've got Synthetics, who are just out and out dominating this league, League Division 1 that they've got. So two teams that are fighting for their lives, really, more so than anything else, going to be trying to take what they can and move forward in the tournament.
All right, well, let's see whether that motivation is enough to push Omega Neuroshock into a convincing early game and a closeout where the Glacial Esports are going to be able to play their game, maybe find a few picks and scale themselves into what should be a very convincing game one if the stats tell us anything. But there's no way to know truly, Rudude, until we get into that game. So let's throw this over to a very quick break, and we will see you on the Rift. Welcome to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. Our first game of the night here at the Risen Divine League, Week 5. Glacial Esports going up against Omega Neuroshock Gaming. Omega Neuroshock hailing from your, what is this, left, right? Your right side of the screen. Glacial Esports, of course, from the left in their matching color there, blue.
Of course, the more commonly associated blue and red side here for League of Legends fans out there, dear. Here, I've always loved your nuanced output on how you try and differentiate the sides from just the base colors that, right, sort of nicely given to us so that we can do it without having to make up these arbitrary values here. And flame aside towards yourself, though we do see the standard 5-point here at level 1. Once again, for those who maybe missed the draft, missed it here, this game number 1, incredibly important here. You might think in a best of 3 that the final game, whoever takes the winning blow is going to be the most important. You'd be incorrect, I'm afraid. Game 1, every single game has a high value stake to it. If you're Omega Neuroshock Gaming, they are currently 0-4. A single game being taken off them by Glacial Esports means that they are out of playoffs contention. Glacial Esports on their side, they're going to be looking to take the victory here so that they go to 3-2 and try and get themselves ahead of the Akuma Claymores, who have got themselves a pretty tough matchup tonight here up against first seed in the group. But it's definitely going to be looking as though both of these squads are going to be trying to take themselves a really decent game number 1 here, because Neuroshock needed to stay in the game.
You know, playing their hearts out, and we alluded a little bit in the draft to the fact that an early lead would really help them here, but already being put on the back foot a little bit in this bot lane. Sly Lego goes for a cheeky little trade with that rail dismount, the classic level 1 here. The person I'm really looking at, though, to get Omega Neuroshock Gaming in a comfortable position in that early game is the classic Jarvan.
Yeah, Dorjan on this Jarvan really needs to be trying to pump out some early game aggression. And has plenty of lanes to be doing that with Volibear, Immobile on the top side, Vel'Koz in the mid lane, and Immobile champion. You want to see some early flashes burned. You want to see some aggressive plays out of this Jarvan. And with his clear, you can see red, wolves, blue, obviously in a different order to that. But he's been looking at this top side very eagerly here. But you can see Popeng is there.
Yeah, flash forward will punch the Urgot in the face with some ground, and now that knockout messing is, well, not the start you wanted. First blood goes to Zemsta, almost make it second, but he hands that one to his jungler, and that's pretty immediate disaster.
Popeng just read Dorjan like a book. There's no other way of putting it. He was ready in the top lane for that gank long before it even happened, and actually got the jump onto I'm Bad, You're Awful before the play had even got there. And unfortunately, I will say Dorjan's clear, just making sure that he wasn't level 3 for the start of the gank will have hurt him a little bit as well. Oh, well, Killering, I think you're just dead.
Yeah, and we just move back into the mid lane where things aren't going super well for this Anivia, although Popeng is taking a lot of turret shots. He's going to go down to the minions of all things, so Killering not even getting a hit is going to accidentally deny himself 300 gold. Fortunately, though, Dorjan will commit his own flash to securing himself a little bit.
Really good play on the mid lane right there from both junglers, getting themselves not only a kill on their respective mid laners, but also burning the flash out of both sides. Really, save for Kite Azure, the only one to keep and remain his flash right there. Vel'Koz actually going to expend the teleport back into the mid lane, and you can see with that Dark Seal as well, feeling a lot more confident now that this Anivia doesn't have a flash. This sort of mid lane matchup can go either way, and with 2 Immobile users, the skill shot's going to be incredibly important to see who's hitting those. But you can already see on the minimap here a lot of priority from the junglers in and around that mid lane very early on.
Dorjan now scooting his way out as Popeng has come back and doesn't want to be caught around here. Zemsta having a fun time in this top lane, as the Volibear do tend to do, will be flipped out by I'm Bad, You're Awful. And I do want to note that but a minute ago, there was a funny little stat where the amount of gold that had come out in the form of the minions, I'm going to have to hold this, Kite Azure might take down Killering here, still does have his own flash and isn't going to end up committing it for right now, baiting in Dorjan for a little while. Needs to be able to survive any upfront burst, but with nothing really available from Dorjan, does eventually force that flash. He should go down here. Kite Azure picks up a kill, makes it look pretty easy.
This mid lane is an absolute brawl here, dear. I will say that for The Glacial Esports roster, they've got some really difficult skill shots to be connecting. Both these ground-based shoves from Talia and Vel'Koz are very difficult to be connecting on. Typically, you want reliable hard CC to set you up for either of them, but this time round, both of these guys are going to have to be relying on mechanics exclusively to see if they can find these connections and set themselves up for these kills. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get them in that instance, but they were still able to pick up Dorjan, who over-aggresses a little bit too much, and now might find himself in a bit of a predicament in his own jungle.
Peng's not got a lot of mana, but he does have a support, and that counts for a lot here, as Dorjan's going to fall to Sly goes Aftershock. Kaidazur is stuck around in this mid lane, hoping to hit level 6 and maybe take down Killering, who doesn't have the stun anymore. He knows it, but it's not going to save his life. Killering, man, you know what you're playing with there, and it's just too hot.
Yeah, hitting level 6 really is the indicative factor right there, and you can see Killing the second 6 is hit, runs away, but it's just too little too late with the Comet damage coming through as well. Nice little engage down on the bot side. It shouldn't amount to too much, but Sly could be in trouble himself.
Yeah, Torchic trying to make something happen. Zemsta, though, in the top lane is making that level 6 work for him as well. Glacial Esports have a very, very cemented knowledge very clearly of what their champions' power spikes are, and it doesn't seem like Omega Neuroshock Gaming even have it on their radar.
And quite simply put here, dear, they're getting outplayed. They're getting outlaned. Yeah. They're just being destroyed across the map. Let's not beat about the bush here. Bot lane, nothing's particularly happened. We've got even CS numbers, and these supports have been trying to trade, but there's not really been an advantage generated from it. It's the top side of the map here for Glacial that is just taking it to Neuroshock. The solo kill in the top lane, mid lane, the jungle has been so important here, and Popeng might just be looking for a little bit extra.
I mean, he absolutely is. Has the confidence of a Talia who has a bunch of kill participation already at this 7-minute mark. We do have technically the favorite thing of play-by-play is more kills than minutes in the game so far. So you know it's going to be a good one at that point. And honestly, Glacial Esports do show no sign of slowing down. When Omega Neuroshock Gaming, they're the ones that have to make plays to get back in this.
And they're 3,000 gold behind already. This was the composition that we'd said was going to be based on an early game aggressive posture. They're going to be ones that are trying to make things happen around this Jarvan, around their early game aggressiveness. But Popeng has just been everywhere. He's done exactly what he needed to do. Read Dorjan like a book and was exactly where he needed to be at exactly the right time. From the beginning of the game at level 3, he was in the top lane. Every mid lane fight since, he's been there.
I love that you touch on that. We're going to see I'm Bad, You're Awful end up going down again. Popeng collects that kill, but I love that just a little while ago you mentioned that the bot lane is going even. That's your hope for Omega Neuroshock Gaming, and going into this game, it was where I thought they had to win. Be it whatever the game state, they were going to have to funnel through this bot lane. They set themselves up to in draft, but now with everybody else behind, are Torchic and 3DD going to be able to step up and fill that gap, or is the rest of the map going to collapse around them? We're going to have to find out after we cut to this fight. There we go, at the Raptors, where Dorjan is getting his smite down and hopefully waltzing out of there, as there's no backup from Popeng.
And unfortunately, I really don't think the lead is going to be all that much, right? We see 5 CS was the difference in that bot lane. It's now just closing and sort of fluctuating around that 1 wave marker for the Tristana, who looks to be slightly ahead of the Kai'Sa, but that sort of lead when you're comparing to 2-0-2 Volibear with 2-level lead in the mid lane as well, CS leads coming out, kill leads everywhere on the top side. The fact that your Tristana is up 1 or 2 CS is a non-factor. It just does not matter here. Torchic and 3DD need to be doing more, but they just can't, because they have the fear that Popeng could be absolutely anywhere. You can see that their vision is sparsely scattered in their own river and in their own jungle. And now on the top side, this is going to be a quick dive.
Yeah, the turret's disabled for now, so I'm Bad, You're Awful just eats a bunch of damage, ends up using the Fear Beyond Death, but importantly getting out alive for now. Popeng flashes forward, gets shut down as he oversteps his boundaries, and Dorjan coming down is going to be spotted by Kaidazur, so Zemsta knows that his life's in danger, should be backing away here. Dodges the knockup, gets the shield, and we're still playing around here with the flash ult. Kaidazur is going to take himself on a killing spree and maybe manage to take down Dorjan under this tower. You got to sidestep everything. He puts his dancing shoes on at just the right time.
He's got those fresh Nikes on today, but he needs to be careful here. Dorjan can definitely die. Yeah.
Well, he's dead, but it's a trade.
And worth it with the shutdown as well, you'd have to say there, expending the Cataclysm. On the bot side, good buffer.
Great buffer from Torchic. Actually, is the difference between him living and dying in this play. Lamilala still has the killer instinct available with no isolated clear targets who are low health enough. There's no point in going in. What they have done is secure themselves a health advantage that Popang could look to take advantage of.
And you just know that he's going to be trying to do that, right? No Weaver's or Weaver's Wall, in fact, available. So coming down to this bot side, a definite possibility. Killer, no, trying to fight him in the mid lane.
He smells a kill in mid lane, but I think he might have COVID because the sense of smell seems to be off. Killering gonna pick up another kill there, and I say another because it's the second time that Popang has given up a shutdown in as many minutes. We might see that turnaround, though, as in bot lane. Torchic is not going to have the same luck he had last time. It's even better, in fact, as he manages to get a kill, forcing everything out of Glacial Esports and still going even.
Lamilala there does fall over the wall, does manage to pick up a retribution kill right there, and that is obviously going to be favorable for Glacial since their AD carry doesn't die in the fight. Dorjan is going to be incredibly saddened by the state of affairs that has just befallen him on his screen there around that little scuttle crab. Fortunately, that is Zemster who is down here taking that one away from him, and his top laner, I'm Badger Awful, is getting himself a little bit of a catch-up mechanic on this top side. Managed to pick himself up a couple of waves. He's going to be able to get himself a couple of plates as well. And with Zemster still nowhere near this top lane, this could go on for a fair while.
Well, watching this mid lane right now is looking to break this open fully. Our side of Glacial Esports not finding Killering ultimately, but still getting a great rotation into this mid lane. I don't think the tower falls, but it's a nice couple plates and experience that gets given over to Kite Azure.
And for me, Glacial are playing this one a little bit too haphazardly. They're taking not necessarily too many risks, but they're just not quite executing on the plays that they're going for. The fact that they were 3,000 gold ahead, 7-1 at one point, they used Herald in top lane, which was one of their most winning lanes, and don't get the turret, feels like a failure. Now on this top side, Zemster looking to try and right that ship.
Oh yeah, I mean, the play topside might have been a failure, but topside as a whole is not going Omega Neuroshock's way. As well, this is sad.
just a slow bleed out. This massive bear chasing got in the mid lane as well. Killering, well, that's an egg, but they're gonna get scrambled.
Nicely channeled ultimate into that final Q to pick that little bird up. Very fried is that egg, and Kite Azure gonna get himself even more turret plates, pushing himself even further ahead. And the fact that he's getting these kills and these turret plates have nothing to do with the fact that he has amazing CS lead. Zemsta just gets a kill under the tower here. He flashes out, does manage to go down for it, but Rito looking like he's gonna fall as well. That buster shot not quite enough, and we get some nice trades across the map, but still ultimately favoring Glacial Esports, as funny as they may look.
And this time round, the buffer doesn't come through for Torchic, unfortunately. Slightly delayed on that one, so unable to capitalize on a potential avenue out of the situation right there. Now, Lamilala is going to be able to find himself a couple of plates. They might be even looking for a dive on the Alistair here. Definitely not the target you want to be going for, though, as Slight Lego is almost certainly regretting that decision to step so close with a Barmies Cinder. You can see Lamilala as well, trying to chip away at this Alistair, who, despite not having any defensive stats, is still very tanky.
Yeah, Alistair Gobert here, and is the only member of his team to have not died yet, so we'll see when we can right that wrong, as Glacial Esports do certainly have the tools to take him down, even if Alistair is a real beefy boy. And we talked about Torchic a little bit. I feel like he's put himself in kind of that Superman position, or did early. No, you know what? He didn't put himself in it. Everybody has put him in a position in that Superman is in, you know, when like you as Superman only have to mess up once and the world is over and everybody else just wants to destroy the world. That's what it feels like in the bot lane right now, because Glacial Esports, they can just keep running down at the bot lane, and even if 3 out of 4 of their dives go wrong, that 1 out of 4 is just going to shut down the win condition.
On this top side, they've taken the turret. They're going to be trying to take down the laner as well. That is going to be a very quick life on this integration right now. They're going to be trying to fight bot side.
Yeah, Torchic gonna fall here, so the Killer Instinct providing incredible value here, but not quite enough. The shutdown will go to 3DD, who still has not died. Dorjan gonna fall here, and we'll see if we can right 3DD's missteps. Skylego gonna get stunned inside the storm, but not take that much damage. Killer's gonna cancel it and walk away there after a pretty bad trade for Omega Neuroshock, going two,
One
one
for
for two, one for two, run for three.
I'm Bad You're Awful
Two,
died top
two.
side as well, right? Down on the bottom side is 1 for 2.
That's not. Hey, dude,
That
when
doesn't
I'm
count?
Bad You're Awful die, it's not an event when he dies anymore. He's 1 in 6.
Okay. Well, by that proxy, then surely Dorjan's death doesn't count either, and you know
That's
it's
true.
only Torchic that should be counted. It's a 1 for 1, and
It's
when
a
you're
one
behind,
it's a 1 for 1.
when you're behind, 1 for 1s are good, right?
That's true. I like our reasoning here. I like where this has gone because it actually gives Omega Neuroshock hope, unlike that wall.
Yeah, and those are so difficult to land. You can't really be flaming that one as the Cataclysm goes down. Quick flag and drag knock up. Torchic going to be trying to dish out more.
Nobody can get over the terrain. It's actually over. Sly Lego actually feeling it here is going to fall. Zensta, I suspect, will go down, but he's got a lot of tanky stats on the Volibear. Fear Beyond Death is going to do the work. His percentage health. A shutdown gets given over to I'm Bad, You're Awful, and Omega Neuroshock continue to keep themselves at about 50% kills on the board.
Trying to clap back, they get themselves a couple of kills. We can't deny that is going to be a positive trade for them, but we look across the rest of the Rift here. Kite Azure on the top side has got himself that 1,000 gold bounty, the illustrious tally that you love to be seeing on these long-range mages, a 50 CS lead as well in the mid lane. There's something against an Anivia that is a very difficult feat to achieve. And might even be looking for killing here as well, but a really nice scout out. Let's make sure that he's actually going to stay safe right there. So love to see those coming on through. Very well done by Killering to keep himself out of harm's way, of course, with the Lifeform Disintegration Ray and with Hextech Alternator, Ludens, 10 stacks on a Dark Seal. This Vel'Koz has absolutely no issue trying to take down somebody with no magic resist.
No, Torchic definitely having an issue with Sly Lego, though, who does have the armor. Has a turbo chem tank built up, so giving a few more engage options over to Glacial Esports. Speaking of engages, Papang can end up popping the stopwatch in response to one from Dorjan. Still gets jumped on by Torchic, though, and will go down. Answered back by Lamalala. And it is a 1 for 1 at the moment as Torchic has fallen. Sly Lego still continuing forward with that engage, though. Almost gets taken down, gives a double kill over to his AD carry, though. So well done, ultimately. Results-based analysis is definitely favoring Glacial Esports, as I think would any analysis of this game right now, as they turn onto their 3rd dragon of the game.
Well, there's just another 1 for 1 here. I'm Bad You're Awful dying doesn't actually mean anything. So, again, positive trade for Omega, but we have to remember the Drake goes to Glacial, and then now on Soul Point. Something that's sort of gone a bit under the radar here and was sort of expected is that these dragons have been picked up by Glacial, who have just been very dominant this game. We joke, we meme, but Glacial have been tearing this game apart right now. And that Dark Seal has been upgraded. It's going to be a Medjai's now. Kite Azure looking to put more and more stacks onto that one. Currently sat at 18 here. Vastly much more gold value than any other item he could have picked up at this stage. And
oh my god. Oh my god. Stop, that's illegal.
And I say poke because it was a 1 ability and 1 auto attack, but it took him down to half HP, W on top of that. Takes him down to about a 3rd. Now we can see Dorjan setting up, and Bad You're Awful is here as well, but I think they just die going for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Dorjan is going to get lasered down, and I'm Bad You're Awful not going to be feeling too much better. Killering has shown up, though, and can turn the fight. Misses the stun, or rather gets flashed by Zemsta, who now walks his way out from under the tower, finishes cleaning it up with the help of Kite Azure, and walks away. Right, Glacial, they have got a chokehold on this game, a Wuju fingerhold on this game, and I think they're going to skadoosh it.
Okay, I was wondering where the reference was going. I am always a fan of Kung Fu Panda. You can never take that one away from me. Zemsta is now going to take life away from Killering, takes him down in less than 2 seconds. The egg, simply not a problem for the Volibear, and Frenzied Maul makes that job very, very easy. Now see Torchic hopping over the wall to get himself just some sort of semblance of safety here. And honestly, I want to touch on the Gale Force here for Torchic. It's what he needed this game, but it means he doesn't do damage. And when... Oh, hold on. Popang, I think you're dead. I think.
All right. Yeah,
yes.
he's dead.
When you, so that was very nice. That was very quick. Well done for Neuroshock to get themselves a little bit of a kill back there. But you talked about Torchic being this Batman figure. He may not have been the hero that the team wanted, but it's definitely the hero that they needed, more so than anything else, because the rest of the map sort of fell around him. And unfortunately, when your squad is falling quite so frequently, you have to go Kraken Slayer here. There's just no way around dishing out more damage than true damage on every third auto attack. So the Gale Force here is nice. It's something that'll give him ability to potentially stay alive, but they're already dealing so much damage that you die too quickly, even through Gale Force getting you out to safety. The Kraken Slayer, it's something that probably wouldn't have altered the course of the game. It's something that probably wouldn't have altered how well Torchic was able to perform, but it's one of those smaller things that in a closer game might have made a significant difference.
Yeah. This certainly could make a difference, though, as I'm Bad You're Awful gets that particular kill. Kaidazur should be able to channel back from safety as Malamalala goes back into the backline, doesn't find the assassination on anyone, is 1v1ing Torchic. Frontline Papang trying to take down Georgia, and here is 1v2ing with Killring, so we still get trades back and forth, with actually the fight going relatively even right now. Killring gonna find himself yet another kill, get the shutdown onto Kaisa, and this is what wasn't even fight. It's going heavily in the favor of Neuroshock Gaming. Zemsta, though, cannot chew through everyone, and you give a lot of gold back over to Omega.
The team fight composition comes out on top here. Dear Killering just pumping out the DPS. Only has a Ludens to speak of right now, but that's all that he needs when everybody's just standing in that Glacial Storm. And Ivia comes online if you enable her to do so here. A lovely Cataclysm to set up for all of that. And then, of course, just playing inside the very short range, very low mobility Volley Bear in the back end of that fight does mean that Anivia is going to get a lot of kills, a lot of gold back in the bank. This game's not over, dear. Neuroshock aren't out yet.
No, they're not. That was a really spooky reality check. If you are Glacial Esports, you can't just run it into this team right now with the grade that they just did, right? We saw Papang fighting a fight all on his own, 1v2. We saw Lamalala ulting into the back line. Zemsta was dealing with I'm Bad You're Awful. There was no coordination here. There was no target focus. Glacial Esports were all over the place, and Omega and Neuroshock in these small duos were able to make up that difference, turn it into a team fight win. And now we'll see if Glacial Esports can recognize that and maybe rectify it, because their sole point is coming up and they sure would like it.
Oh, they got only 20 seconds to put their wards down, set themselves up nicely here. And if they're set up in that position, so this is for Neuroshock Gaming, if they're the ones that are trying to move into this chokehold, then it's pretty difficult here. Trying to face check going into a Vel'Koz will always present you difficulties. Tristana, somebody that likes to jump on in, but into 5 members who aren't really going to be very split, it will always be pretty difficult here. We do have a little in-game pause. Looks like everybody's trying to get reconnected up. Junglers appear to be having some connection issues here. Not quite sure across which side, but a bit of tension, a bit of apprehensiveness here before the game resumes. And with 20 seconds before this Mountain Dragon begins, this could very well be do or die for Neuroshock.
And with only 20 seconds until the Mountain Dragon spawns, I'm a little nervous. I want to throw this to a very quick technical intermission so that we can actually cast what you're seeing on screen and the lag doesn't break us up. So we will be right back as the Dragon fight is about to break out.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. The fight about to erupt here. The Drake up and live, and here goes Jarvan.
Yeah, Cataclysm goes down, but he's going to get exploded in the front line as everybody else is taking up the time. Zemsta huge in the back line of Omega Neuroshock Gaming. That Fear Beyond Death is not going to secure a kill, just barely, as Papang lives up to his name and really pops the Urgot before he can get that ultimate off. We move ourselves to sole point for Glacial Esports, and it looks like they figured out what went wrong last team fight, and they shut it down quick.
It's that setup that I was talking about here, dear. Trying to get into the fight is much more difficult for Neuroshock than just battling around the mid lane. Their engage is just too disjointed. Dorjan goes in with no support behind him. Just a single frontliner is more than enough to buy the space, buy the time for the rest of Glacial to dish out the damage onto Jarvan and move through the rest of the team fight. It's a 4-for-0. They get the Baron, they get the Dragon, they've got Soul, they've got themselves this big purple worm as a buff. And now Glacial, they should be more than able to take this game. They should be more than capable to cement that they're the team in the second place position and take Neuroshock out of Divine League altogether.
For those of you who are wondering why we haven't addressed the gold so far, it's because we love ourselves, and it's been a little bit of a depressing stat to watch grow so heavily between these teams. But it's worth noting that Glacial have managed to reach past the 10,000 gold mark in their favor. And I'm Bad You're Awful definitely going to be feeling it going up against Zemsta. It's a very spooky time to be an Omega fan here, is like you said, it just takes Glacial Esports closing out this game. They should very easily be able to, and you can't go to playoffs anymore.
Of course, 25 stacks on a Vel'Koz is a very daunting prospect, but when he has 3 other additional items to that, it just becomes an even more challenging prospect. Right now, he has essentially 4 completed items. Medjai's at 25 stacks is about as gold efficient as a Rabadon's, which is without the passive, I will say, without the passive. You get 3,800 golds worth of statistics from that Medjai's at 25 stacks. So very worthwhile if you're able to pick up all of those stacks. And hey, that's why we see Kite as you're building it, since he is so safe in the backline and is so easily able to keep himself alive during these team fights. The good thing, I suppose... Oh, never mind.
All right. Well,
there is no good thing for Neuroshock. The good thing
Vel'Koz
died.
is an assassin.
I told you, didn't I? That's the Rabadons.
Yeah, Pang playing like an assassin does go for the kill there onto Torchic. Doesn't find it, as the buffer is going to come in. Torchic keeps himself alive, but for how much longer is really our question right now. Fun fact, as we're going to watch the inhibitor tower and subsequently inhibitor falling, perhaps some members of Omega Neuroshock, as Sly Lego goes for that engage there, gets a big one. Not enough follow-up damage just yet, as he's tanking up a lot in this front line, gets pulled back in by the Fear Beyond death, but does end up living just a little while longer. Dorjan, of course, gets blown up as soon as he tries to go in. A great Zanya's is going to save Kite Azur's life as he walks it out away from Torchic, who has just been exploded and assassinates Killering one more time, still living at the end of that on single-digit HP.
Quadra-kill comes through for the Vel'Koz. The assassin turned mage turned anything you may deem him appropriate to be is going to be able to move out. He gets himself the TP, and that's just it.
Yeah, welcome to Risen Divine League, folks, where Glacial Esports are making this look like their league as they take down Omega Neuroshock Gaming. I would be scared coming out of this game as Omega Neuroshock, and I think everybody else has got to be a little afraid too, especially for Game 2, that Glacial Esports, I expect, are going to try and take an even more aggressive stance with.
There was maybe a 30 to 40 second window when Neuroshock looked comfortable in that game, and it was around that team fight in the mid lane where the Anivia got to sit back, wasn't really pressured. But other than that, it was all Glacial Esports. We're talking about 40 seconds in what was a 26-minute game here. That's a very small fraction for those who are unfamiliar with math. And honestly, Glacial just looked so comfortable to and fro. You can see the stats on your screen. Vel'Koz pumping out by far and away the most damage here. You can see that absolutely everybody who is a damage dealer on Glacial actually dishing out more damage than every single member on Omega Neuroshock, save for the 79 damage discrepancy in favor of the Urgot over the Talia.
Yeah, just that little touch there, and it actually surprises me where it comes from, because Papang was popping up everywhere. He was literally in every lane ganking all the time, but maybe a little bit more over aggression cost himself some more time in the gray screen than the rest of his teammates did end up having. On the whole, though, playing that early game so well, you definitely earned that, and you set everybody up for success. Glacial Esports play remarkably well as a roster. Let's see if they can do it in Game 2, Rudude. I'm going to throw us to a short break, but when we get back, Glacial Esports are up 1-0 on Omega Neuroshock Gaming. At this point, they are living on a prayer. We'll see what they come up with in that second game. See you soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Risen Divine League Week 5, where Omega Neuroshock Gaming are going up against Glacial Esports. Although, to say going up against, I feel like we should say going up against Glacial Esports like they're a brick wall. Glacial looked insane in Game 1 and certainly outclassed Omega Neuroshock Gaming. And as we put it, going into the second game, they are certainly living on a prayer. Madonna said it best, and we'll see if Omega Neuroshock can have that as their soundtrack for this game because they're going to need it.
Living on a Prayer was Madonna?
I don't fucking know. I just said it.
It was Bon Jovi.
Who's Bon Jovi?
Okay, never mind. This
Bon
is not
Jovi.
important.
Wait. Oh no. Madonna said which one? 4 Minutes to Save the World.
Yes.
That's a good ass song.
That's
All right, let's get back on this. I will elude all celebrity references right now. I'm actually turning off Twitch chat because I can't watch them. I can't watch them hear me say this. Let's talk about the draft route, dude. I know League of Legends.
I hope so, dear. We're not. We're not here for your pop culture references. That's for sure. We've got a Seraphine lock-in first rotation for Neuroshock after what is again a slightly less jungle-oriented banning phase, but nevertheless they've still got the Udyr, they've still got Kha'Zix taken away from Dorjan. So with obviously a few less junglers taken off the table, I would expect here a bit more priority to be put into that role. And you can see that sort of shadowed and mimicked in the fact that Glacial picked themselves up the Kindred as their first pick up of the draft. Of course, Seraphine is a very staple blind pick here for the B1 side, can be played in multiple roles, does multiple things, and is overall a very great champion.
Yeah, Seraphine is going to be bringing a lot of versatility to the composition following from Omega Neuroshock Gaming. Glacial Esports maybe a little bit less versatile, but I expect this to turn into a very convincing game from the mid laner. I've seen a lot of Galio played, and certainly Glacial Esports, with the takeaway on Omega Neuroshock Gaming, are afraid of what Killering can do based on this last game.
Jinx going to be the AD carry of choice for Neuroshock this time round, a champion that received a few buffs a couple patches ago and has started to peter up, go a little bit further around the scene, we'll say here, and can definitely hold her own now in the laning phase. Previously was a more notorious late game scaler, and don't get me wrong, still has that power. But those buffs really helping her out in the early game. We've got a couple of different Jinx builds that can come through as well in terms of the rune choice you opt into. A lot of people going Conqueror, a few people still going Lethal Tempo, and this Hail of Blades Jinx as well that I'm seeing crop up at a few places. I've heard sort of rumors of being this all-powerful lane presence for the Jinx, so we will have to wait and see what sort of variant we're getting here, and I think it will surely depend on the rest of the draft here for Neuroshock, because they've got themselves once again a very staple flex pick, this time on the blue side once again here, the Gragas that can go top, go support, go jungle, does a lot of things for Neuroshock's draft and allows them a lot of potential to maneuver their composition to something they'd quite like.
Yeah, but it is still in this area, especially when you see a Jinx of we're playing around the bot lane, and it didn't really help Omega Neuroshock last time. The bot lane went fine, but everything else fell apart. So especially with the Gragas and Seraphine, I kind of want to see them go into the lanes because they are both laners that can neutralize, and into something like Galio specifically from Kaida Zur, who we've seen him be a monster on before. I am pretty scared for Omega Neuroshock and how well they can keep it together when Kaida Zur is expected to be pressuring the side lanes and the jungle heavily.
At the point here, I want to counter you on. I want to say that Galio is a very boring laning phase in its own right, and that you could maybe even take something to punish it here. I don't think that sending Seraphine into the Galio is at all necessary, right? If you're looking to neutralize a lane, you're looking to neutralize something like a LeBlanc, like a Syndra. Galio, I don't think has that same level of threat, same level of presence, because Galio roams regardless of who you're playing up against. Seraphine, similar sort of situation, will wave clear regardless here. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe they pick something to maybe punish the Galio for what is an ultimately fairly weak laning phase here. Definitely pivots more toward helping to roam around the map and help out the team. We also have to remember this Galio can go into the support role. It is a flex pick that can be moved down into the bot lane, and whilst we expect Kaitazure to take it just because of his prevalence on that champion, we can never underestimate the power of a red side flex.
Yeah, and I actually, speaking of the potential for the Galio to be flexed, they were thinking about the Heimerdinger. I really wanted them to take it just to really mess us up here. We'll end up going with the safe and strong pick of Tristana. The fact that it can be flexed is likely the thing that will keep the lane from being punished at all.
I want to. I don't know why Neuroshock have banned Kai'Sa and not Tristana. I feel like you're just picking their AD carry for them. I would have much rather see them either ban both of them, force a lower tier AD carry, or ban neither of them and just focus out one specific role here. I feel like that doing one of them just effectively does Neuroshock's or does Glacial Esports' job for them. It's by the by, it's what has happened, and the Tristana comes on through here, and we'll be looking to compete for that early game prevalence in the bot lane and also scale up to be the late game monster that we know Tristana can be with that late game range. Irelia locked in for Neuroshock is something that we have not seen in recent times, and Sejuani going into that one as well. This is a very, very interesting draft coming out from Neuroshock here. They are planning on playing to this mid lane. They are planning on playing to Killering, and I talked about trying to punish this mid lane. I would love to see an R5 that limits Irelia, that punishes the fact that you've picked this Irelia. Not blind necessarily, but something that can try and go toe-to-toe with it.
Sylas certainly one of those champions, especially with the versatile ultimates that he can take away from Neuroshock Gaming. I look across the board, a lot of them are really scary, and it's not just limited to the crowd control that Sejuani and Gragas bring. Seraphine as well, taking a ton of it, and Sylas can kind of pick these up on cooldown, throw them out there, and see what happens. I mean, Neuroshock put themselves in a difficult position with this Irelia Sejuani, but we'll see if they can make it work.
Now, Irelia Sejuani is a very dominant duo, and I don't want to get this mistaken that Sylas here is still going to have a rough time. He's still going to struggle if this mid jungle do combine and do try and take themselves a fight. The Frostbite stacks from Sejuani stacking, of course, with Irelia's auto attacks as well, means that you can get that stun off incredibly quickly. You can start chaining those into not only Irelia stuns, but also ultimates, more damage coming on through in the mid lane as well. But, of course, the Sylas picks here will have a better time than the Galio, and you can see that that's why they flexed the Galio down to the support role, because the Sylas has maybe not better escape tools, but has more potential to try and turn the 2v2 in their favor, of course, with Kindred coming on in as well. There is a chance that they can nuke down the Irelia before she's able to dash around, get those resets, proc a passive, and be a nuisance in the little skirmish. So I'm loving the red side orientation from Glacial to sort of say, hey, Galio, it's a good mid laner, but against this duo, we need something else.
Yeah, we shall see what that ends up netting them, of course, as this is still a difficult one, to be sure. As Omega Neuroshock are going to be trying to punish the Sylas, even though it is this counter pick, that we see into the Irelia Sejuani is still theoretically going to struggle if both of them are in the lane, and a lot of this relies on Dorjan and not being outplayed in a macro sense by Popeng again, because it happened so early on last time, and the idea was really good. But Popeng had a read on him, devolved into aggressiveness as the game goes on. I feel like if you're Dorjan, you can think about where Popeng is going to be and try and punish that over-aggression that was very clearly displayed.
I might have to eat my words a little bit about what I was saying in terms of this mid-jungle duo here, because I'm Badger Awful. The top laner is the one who's locked in the Irelia, so we'll wait to see if there are any sort of flex picks going around and whether they're going to swap them around. But what this then means is that we're going to have Seraphine in the mid lane, presumably, and Gragas down as the support. There's a chance, of course, that those mid supports do flex around, and there's a chance that everybody switches up their positions. But for the most part, a little bit atypical. Would have liked to see that the mid jungle of Sylas or against Sylas Kindred. But hey, I mean, the fact that you can take Sejuani still to the top lane still is very easy. And in fact, into Aatrox, an Irelia pick, probably not all that bad here. Being able to dodge out on the majority of those Darkened Blades just with your own Blade Surge probably makes this matchup very, very Irelia favored.
It is, although the isolated lane makes me sweat. I feel like you're right. I would have really liked to see this mid lane, and we're putting 3DD on the Gragas. Still very, very low deaths here. Now we'll have to maybe try and keep that one up with the Gragas, who is providing still a lot of disengage with the levels. I don't know. I feel weird about it though. This is an odd pivot from Omega Neuroshock Gaming, and you've got to imagine that it's inspired by how confident the players are in their champions, and especially right now in the situation that they're in, it's going to matter pretty significantly. Will it be significant enough to win the game? It really depends on the early game.
For sure, Irelia is not a champion that you go, I can kind of play Irelia, sure we can pick it here. Irelia is I am 100% proficient on this champion, give it to me and I will style on the enemy's style. Because if you're not 100% up on your mechanics, you're going to look real bad real quick. You're just going to flop, have that classic solo queue experience for the majority of our audience here. They're going to know exactly what we're talking about with an Irelia that doesn't quite know what they're doing. The fortunate thing, of course, is going to be that Sejuani should be looking to pocket the Irelia and should be looking to be essentially a support for her, because these two go hand in hand together, synergize so well with one another that they can take over a game if they play to their strengths. And Popeng, of course, we saw in game number 1, a very wise jungler. He's going to know this, and he's going to be hoping to prevent that from happening once again. It goes back to your point here, dear, that maybe Dorjan starts to think about that and maybe try and plan a few steps ahead here. But overall, it's going to be an incredibly entertaining top side to watch at the very least.
Yeah, and in this series, it is still just the one game for Glacial Esports. They haven't won it yet, which is why we're in Champion Select. Omega Neuroshock, they can still get their game wins in and put fights up against these very strong teams. Glacial Esports very clearly one of them. So we'll see what Omega Neuroshock can do once we hit the Rift. Right now, we're going to throw it to a very quick break before we get there. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. Omega Neuroshock Gaming in their second game against Glacial Esports have got to dig themselves out of a hole that was about 10 to 11,000 gold too large for them last time. This time, we start even. You start fresh, and I think that with this, Omega Neuroshock Gaming, they can really look to change the story of this series.
And they certainly should be looking to at least get themselves some retribution, right? For Omega Neuroshock Gaming, this is unfortunately the end of the road. Losing that game does put them out of playoffs contention. But fortunately for Glacial and of course for the series, there's still a lot riding on this game for Glacial Esports. If we look back at previous series here and the previous results, if Neuroshock, or rather if Glacial take another 2-0 against Neuroshock, and then they go on to tie 3-3 in the standings, which is expected given that Glacial will have to play up against Synthetics, which we're expecting to be a defeat and expecting Synthetics to take that game quite handily. If that is the case, and if, of course, Akuma Claymores on the other side of the game, or in another game that is going on tonight, also take themselves a defeat to Synthetics, the fact that Omega Neuroshock Gaming took a game away from the Akuma Claymores is going to put Glacial in that position to take second seed, even if they are 3-3. So a 2-0 here actually does wonders for Glacial and puts them in a very strong position that, even though it might seem like a bit of an, not necessarily unprecedented, but a fairly easy game, and that they've definitely shown that they could dominate game number 1 and should be looking to do the same in game number 2 here. There's a lot more riding on a 2-0 here than maybe you would have first thought.
Yeah, and I think it's worth remembering as well that the way that Glacial got ahead in that first game was so heavily based in these early kills happening. And the way that the junglers have pathed right now, there aren't going to be a whole lot of early kills without these individual outplays that I honestly am not expecting to come from the bot lane. And from the mid lane, I'd be surprised too. It's really only in the top lane that I see Glacial Esports being able to create the gold lead in the same way they did last time.
Of course, the top lane going to be a bit of a focus for both of the squads in that case. We've got Iron Badger Awful, who is already taking some fairly decent trades. It's important to mention here, Zemster seemingly forgot the shop existed before this game started, and is going to be feeling the repercussions of that one in the laning phase. No additional stats, no health potions, no nothing. And a mistake like that is something that I would look to see Neuroshock try and punish here. You can see Dorjan is already in this top side. He's working toward the Tri-Brush, and this time round, Popeng isn't ready for the response. They're just going to go for the gank.
Well, all right. Well, that was that gank.
Didn't go very well. I'll level with you, dear. I'll be the one to say it. The Arctic Assault goes wide, and that's it. That's how that gank ends, unfortunately. You know what? That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, we have been told that the jungler was lagging, which really helps connect the dots because honestly, without that lag, we'll say lag, that gank should go off 100% of the times. You should get a summoner, maybe a kill, easily, and nothing doing there. So reconsidering what their next win condition of play will be on Omega Neuroshock Gaming are going to throw it to a quick pause as we're coming up on the Scuttle Crab that Popeng has marked, and Silas looking to roam with that very same kindred. Could be a fight.
Yeah, of course, guys at home can't quite see the map, the screen at the moment here. Lovely little draft overlay that we've got going on just to break the game up a little bit, but there is a lot of priority already starting to focus on this top side. We've got 2 members from Glacial, the mid and jungle, trying to move their way up through the river with, of course, Sejuani, Irelia moving their way down, and with Aatrox confined to the turret here, this could be an avenue for Neuroshock to start to build themselves back up, to put themselves in a little bit of a position to take themselves an early game fight here. Of course, denying Kindred at the first mark is something that a jungler will always look to achieve and will always be wanting to get ahead of the game with. So that is definitely an area at the very minimum that Neuroshock could be finding advantages through.
Yeah, we'll see what they choose to do. Right now, before the team's ready up, I want to throw us to a technical intermission so we don't have to do that thing when we get in the game where we pause and ready up and have this weird thing where the game is going on. So let's take a break, Rudude. We'll be right back with this game in just a few minutes once the teams sort out their lag issues and Sejuani can really start hitting the Arctic assaults. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. We do have Dorjen back and already contesting the Scuttle Crab right now. Gonna have to stop that one post-haste, though, as Papang and Kaitazur will find him. No fight to be had there just yet, although I hold my breath.
Yeah, there's a lot of people roaming around that Scuttle Crab, and unfortunately for Neuroshock, it looks as though they're all going to be more than happy with one another to go back and... unfortunately,
no, not like this.
no.
Not like this. We can't even throw the mini map up where the exciting stuff is happening. Rooted. Well, you were about to tell me something. You made cake pops earlier today.
I did make cake pops earlier today, actually. For those that are interested, Rudu did a baking stream earlier today, and honestly, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that presentation is not our strong suit. Don't get me wrong, the cake tastes amazing, and we made cookies as well. We had a very nice little baking stream, a very nice little session, me and my housemates making a lot of chocolate variants, so very, of course, bad for me. But at the end of the day, they do taste great. However, the stream, of course, can't see it. Can't taste it. All they can see is what we present in front of them. And what I presented, and I use very loose quotes for the word presentation because it's far from that at the very best, was definitely suboptimal, I will say. So we made a cake that as soon as we took it out of the tin, just collapsed. That was the first effort. And I made a new term. Are you familiar with the baker's dozen, dear?
I am, yes.
Well, we made the term the baker's couple, which is just three.
Is it three? Yeah,
it's just three. But you say that it's the baker's couple because the first one goes so horrendously wrong.
Yeah, you know, I've always wanted them to start doing that with chip bags. You know, that like the whole baker's dozen thing. How like that's because some stuff wouldn't be as big as others, right? So you just throw in another one, so that at least this is the impression that I'm under. You know,
Baker's dozen was because it was when they used to make bread rolls or so like batches of bakeries and things, and they used to do them in packs of 12 or bake them in 12s. But the first or something was, or they'd sell them in 12s actually. But then the first one was always to get the recipe right, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong because if you batch bake them all, then you'd get the recipe wrong for all 12. So I'm just deluded, unfortunately.
All right,
but it was something to do with. Yeah, I mean, it was something. Hit the Google. Let's see. Where does the bit?
Yeah, exactly. Baker's dozen. We're gonna figure this out. Well, I just googled baker's dozen. Actually, I googled baker's doze, and that is already not a good start. I'm abandoning it. It makes me upset though that people don't sell muffin tins with 13 in them just to sort of feed into that. I haven't made anything in a while though, and it's mostly because I don't know if you all know it, but we were talking about some religious stuff off stream. And it's Lent right now, so my girlfriend and I have given up sugar, which is really difficult for baking. But we do it because my mother is religious, and it makes her proud of me. More proud than me having a job.
Well, sad times in the Dia household, unfortunately. But giving up sugar is hard. Are you doing well with that?
I wasn't initially because I was like, I just want to eat all the time. But it's gotten a little bit easier. I've been making do with figs. You know, dried figs? Those things slap, dude.
Do things like fruit and things count? Because they have like hidden sugars, right? They have those weird, like I don't know what to call it, but they're like sweet, but they're also not inherently sugar because they're natural. Are you allowed to eat fruit? I assume you are.
I'm allowed to eat fruit. Yeah. They have natural sugars. Yeah. We're just not having any processed sugars, so we're chilling up here. Not drinking maple syrup by the gallon as we used to, and more importantly, not having flavors of Oreos. Have I told you, Rudy? That's one of my goals in life is to try every flavor of Oreo.
How many flavors of Oreos are there? I refuse to believe there are more than 3.
Are you joking?
Oreos,
oh my God, what is happening in your life?
Oreos are white. The Oreos are the 2 outer biscuits and the white foamy center. That's Oreos. What do you mean there are flavors of Oreos?
There are more
What
than
do they flavor?
85 flavored Oreos.
Where?
There's chicken and waffles flavored Oreos. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna read through a list here. There's an Oreo strawberry cheesecake, a red velvet Oreo, a
Now,
carrot cake Oreo,
this is important
Okay, I'm listening.
for context. Are these all in the same Oreo structure? Because if not, then it's a diversification of the base Oreo, and I'll allow it. But if these are all the same fundamental 2 biscuits, 1 foamy bit that is chicken and waffle flavored, then something's gone wrong.
What are you talking about? Something's gone wrong. Like, are you saying if it was Oreos on top of chicken and waffles, then you'd be okay with it?
No, I'm just saying, like, if they've changed the format somehow, that it's somehow more acceptable.
No, of course not. They're not monsters, Rudy. They just fill it with something with different flavoring.
Okay, so that's what they're changing. It's the white bit in the middle that becomes now chicken and waffle flavored.
Or buttered popcorn in some cases. Candy corn, hot and spicy cinnamon. The world is an amazing place. There's even a Dunkin' Donuts Mocha limited edition.
Okay, so well, you need to get on that one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You said that there's over 85. What's your goal? What's your tally at right now?
I think 20.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I was expecting
it-
like very low digits here.
You know, it's because I went to Spain and for some reason they had like 5 different Oreo flavors in one store in Spain that I found nowhere. I found like a sour apple Oreo. It wasn't that good, but
Really?
like,
Who'd have thought?
I don't see them too often. So that was cool. But now I've been kind of stuck because they only recently came out with like this salted caramel pie one in Canada, and well, I haven't had more than that, and that came out like 2 months ago. So
Salted caramel, you had me, and then you said pie.
yeah,
Okay,
it was weird. It was weird.
You guys are weird. Your pies are different to my pies.
Okay, go on.
My pie has like a crust on the top and has like, and the filling is what makes it, right? Do you guys? So when you guys say like key lime pie, whatever, right? That's just it's like a cheese. It's like it's not got a top on it, has it? Do
No,
American
it
pies have
doesn't.
tops?
Some American pies have tops. So like an apple pie, I think would fit into your definition of pie, right? Because it's got that little cover over it. But we don't always dough lid our pies. Like famously, the pecan pie isn't going to have a top, or like you say, like a lemon tart isn't going to.
Okay, right. Well,
but you don't like that.
Okay.
You want your food to be insulated from the elements.
Yeah, of course I do, man. You're using the pie as a nice little barrier you're using like the crust, I should say. The pie is the whole thing. You're using the crust as a barrier from, as you so eloquently put it, the outside elements, and then you cut on in, and then you get the big steam. You know, you like open it up, and then you pull a slice out, and then it just goes, and the steam just floats up. That's what you want.
It's really good for soft pies, I think. Like I think you're onto something here. Because like, you know, with things like, I dare say even pumpkin pie, you can go lidded and it's good, right? But once you get to something like key lime, having all that moisture in there, it's just going to make it like weird and sticky, but you get this nice glaze over the top. I'm very passionate about my pies.
How much Great British Bake Off have you watched?
I've watched 0 Great British Bake Off.
Okay, I'm curious
do they all make pies with the
have,
tops open?
No, it was more so that you said soggy and moisture, and anybody that's watched Great British Bake Off will know that one of the judges on the show is a stickler for what she likes to call a soggy bottom, where it's you turn over the pie and then the crust is like it's soggy, believe it or not. The bottom of the pie is soggy. So it just made me laugh when you said that, and yeah, did they have Great American Bake Off, or is that just not exist?
No, it'd be like a mediocre American Bake Off at best. We've got
Oh.
like, is that guy's name Guy Ritchie, the guy who looks like he should be a biker, but he's in a kitchen?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He might actually be a biker too. So I mean, like, if he is, props
Wait,
to
Guy
him.
Ritchie's a film director.
Oh, ooh, wait,
He's
who
from
is
England.
that guy? Wait,
don't
who's
know.
that guy? Well, we're not here for my celebrity references, that's for sure.
The pop culture. Oh no. Well, I think that honestly, like Great British Bake Off, like if you guys did it, it'd just be worse. Do you guys know how bad your rip-offs of TV shows are? Okay, I say you guys, you're Canadian, right? You get a slight pass.
Yeah. For the sake of this conversation, I
Yeah.
was born in Canada. For the actual fact of the matter, I've lived in both countries.
Okay, well, either way.
Yeah.
Have you seen In Betweeners?
I have not seen In-Betweeners, but I do know
Okay.
that you have a different version of The Office.
Yeah, okay, now
And-
that was going to be my exception that proves the rule.
Okay.
Because the US office trumps UK office by far, and that's
You
just
know-
a fact.
Unpopular opinion, your version of Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay is also much better.
Oh, of course.
Which
Gordon Ramsay's
surprised
English.
me.
Gordon Ramsay's
yeah,
English. Of course,
he-
it's better here.
Well, what are you talking about? The people are the same everywhere. Okay, wait.
well,
Actually, you know what? I made that statement
no,
and
no.
instantly regretted making that statement. You're clearly
So-
of a different breed.
so we had Gordon Ramsay before Gordon Ramsay was Gordon Ramsay. You know, we
Mhm,
got
that's true.
unfiltered British Gordon Ramsay who was in it for the heart and soul of the kitchen, dear. Okay.
Yeah.
He was that was him, and then he went to America and he was like, oh, I can make a load of money from this TV show, blah blah blah. It was
Yeah.
it's a different beast, a different breed, unfortunately. So I'm definitely feeling the Gordon Ramsay pre-America. It's the same as James Corden. James Corden, you just have
He's
James
a singer,
Corden now.
right?
Oh my word, dear! Please, please! I'm just gonna stop. James Corden's a late night talk show host in America.
What? There are late night talk. Oh, wait, I thought there was only like Jon Stewart and I don't know, another John. John, not Mulaney.
Have you heard of Jimmy Fallon?
I have heard of Jimmy. He has people on his show and they do bits, right?
Sure.
There-
I mean, you should know more about this than I do. I
I don't watch a whole lot of Jimmy Fallon. I play too many video games. That's what I.
I mean, true, fair enough. But so James Corden is another one of those that was in the UK, had a great little bit, was beautiful, and then went out to America and changed his whole identity. Essentially, he played. There was a sitcom that we had over here called Gavin and Stacey, which was like his big break into showbiz, I guess. And he played a character called Smithy, and they had a really weird relationship with his sister and the person that it doesn't matter. I'm not about to explain the plot of Gavin and Stacey to you, dear. You don't know who Jimmy Fallon is. Triggering over. But yeah, it's just another experience or another example of these gosh darn Americans taking our English pride and
taking
making it
your
worse.
jobs.
You know what I also realized is
Please.
LEC doesn't have any NA imports, right?
Do they not?
I don't
guess they have
okay, I don't know. I haven't,
Vedius, Frosk. Is Frosk? Where's Frosk from?
I'm on about
Frosk is gone. Doesn't matter.
I was on about
And-
players.
The
The cast is very different because Dracos
Wait.
and Ender are both American, I think.
They don't have any NA imports?
Yeah, I don't think so. I haven't fact
Nobody
checked
has any
it.
NA imports. Why would you import from NA?
Well, yes, exactly.
I'm gonna get
but
slapped
also-
by amateur for this. Somebody's gonna be watching this like cover your walk or something, and they're gonna clip it and go, "Why would you import talent from NA?" Yeah,
and just like that, and just like
Yeah.
that, his career was over before it even begun.
Exactly. But no, we're a region that struggles to perform internationally very consistently. Are NA imports in other places?
No, but it just made me laugh that this culture doesn't just stem from it's everything in America does this, right? Like talking about our talk shows, our TV shows, the blooming players that are in the games, it makes me laugh. I feel like NA have why didn't Doublelift come to EU, right? Like Doublelift is quite clearly, or was at the very least, the best pro ADC for a long time, right?
Mhm.
Why didn't he just come to Europe? Why didn't he do something? Why didn't he get out of groups? Omega Law.
Maybe the money isn't there. Like I know that you have big sponsors, but I feel like there's a lot more throwing ridiculous amounts of money at big names in NA as a culture. Whereas I feel like your players might have more reasonable salaries.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably a lot to do with it. So you know, I'll leave that subject.
Yeah. It seems like we got about 5 minutes until they're gonna have to unpause and just play this out 4v5. So I want to throw us to a very quick break before we do that, Rudude, so that we have time to check in on how both teams are doing and get ourselves ready for what could be a very scary game for Omega Neuroshock Gaming. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes here on the Risen Divine stream. We'll see you then. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Omega Neuroshock Gaming versus Glacial Esports will continue now, but first, a sad announcement.
They're 4v5. I don't know if that's a sad announcement for me or not, but I'm going to be announcing it anyway, dear. I'm going to go back down to the more docile tones of a sad announcement here. Neuroshock, unfortunately, their jungler has been having severe internet issues and will not be able to partake in the rest of the game. So Neuroshock, in true competitive spirit, are going to try and play it out. Going to play it as a 4v5 here. They're not going to have a jungler, but you know, they're gonna give it their best. They're gonna give it their all, and I don't think there are going to be too many expectations on them here, particularly since game one was a bit of a slaughter. Regardless, having a reduced tally of players is definitely going to be impacting them quite a little bit as well. But hey, we're here for the content, we're here for the show, and we're looking to see how well they can try and hold off.
Yeah, this certainly should be a show. I do want to point out, of course, that the likelihood of an impending victory definitely makes me very happy as a Glacial fan, as we talked about how important this second game was and is for them. Top lane, without that jungle interruption, is also going to be suffering quite a bit.
Definitely not going too well for the Aurelia on the top side, but even in CS, it was just a bit of a rough trade, and with teleport available, I expect her to go back up to that top side and continue trying to scrap
bought
it out.
items, by the way.
Finally, did get those.
Even got a starting item just to really rectify the wrong there. Doran's Blade actually providing you quite a few useful stats in the lane itself. The minions as well, giving them an extra buffer against I'm Bad, You're Awful. Bot lane, we're going to see a little bit of an engage go down as 3DD forced to flash, still preserving that low death number, although with a Pang showing up, that could start to change as Gragas without flash is vulnerable, if a little less than most.
Body slam is, of course, a very decent way to disengage yourself at the very least here. And on the top side, Amadrofel hits the stun.
Okay, and he might actually win this 1v1, although Zemsta pops the
mana.
World Ender for an immense amount of healing. There isn't a whole lot of heal cut on I'm Bad, You're Awful, and he gets taken down with that last auto that no mana you were alluding to is absolutely deadly for him there.
Yeah, it gets taken out there. Had 2 resets of the Q available, but no mana to cast either of them. It means that the Aatrox able to come out on top right there. World Ender, as you say, with a lot of healing, makes that fight just in favor of the Aatrox there. So, not really the fight that they needed to go wrong. The Dragon as well, secured by Popeng, of course. Very easy, very straightforward to secure a Drake with no jungle opposition, and you can sort of see that this Kindred doesn't need to do anything. He's going to be a free-farmed AD carry. Do you know what? I'm going to level with you, dear. I'm not particularly well-versed on the macro over 4v5, but I can tell you now that a Kindred power farming is always going to be very good.
Oh yeah, it's with full access to the enemy jungle is amazing. Top lane going pretty well for Unbad Your Awful. He does teleport back and tries to make it up there, but Zemsta's going to be able to leave with his 1 kill in his pocket. A little bit scared, of course, but Kaitazor's going to, or should be making sure to push this wave in for him. Can't quite get it under the tower, but Seraphine ain't going anywhere. You got time to duel this one out, and I'm Bad, You're Awful. He certainly wants to do it. This one's just as close to the last. Kaitazor lands that last CC, flashes away. I'm Bad, You're Awful still has the mana for that last collapse, but oh, the Kingslayer clutches it out for Kaitazor in the side lane.
Oh, it's so saddening for I'm Bad, You're Awful on the top side. Has got so close so many times and just not quite been able to find the marker. Kingslayer comes back up off cooldown, and the Aurelia falls once more here. 0-2 now on that top lane bruiser. And I said that if you're looking bad on the Aurelia, it's gonna show and you're gonna look bad in your score. I'm Bad, You're Awful hasn't looked bad on the Aurelia. Has been hitting those stuns, has been connecting on the passive procs, but just been getting, I don't want to say unlucky because in a 1v1 it's never down to luck really, but has just been getting these couple of little things that aren't quite going in that favor, and maybe a couple of miscalculations on his damage outputs. The flash from Silas there keeping him alive, and now he's down 2 levels. Now it's really going to be out of his hands, and this is that sort of point where it starts to snowball away from you, where you keep trying to take fights and it just doesn't go well.
Taking fights in the bot lane as well are Glacial Esports. Sly Lego actually almost burns down there as a teleport gets channeled to try and capitalize on the fact that Lamalala also not really having the mobility to get out here. Encore's going to connect, and Killering manages to pick up a kill. Put Omega Neuroshock Gaming on the board as I'm Bad. You're also going to try to one more time in the top lane, going up against Zemsta here. Doesn't have the best time, and Zemsta walks that one out. But Omega Neuroshock Gaming do have a good news story, and it is in that mid lane.
Yeah, getting a nice quick kill, unfortunately, on the top side. The same cannot be said. Vanguard's Edge expended to no result right there. Did go wide, in fact, so not actually going to be able to find much of anything in that 1v1. And with World Ender available, you do fear for the 1v1.
Well, this Aurelia, wait till she's marked. Never mind.
Never mind, she didn't walk into the ulti. That's not going to work.
It was the outplay. It was the outplay.
Oh, true.
The fact that she didn't walk into the ulti keeps the mark from Popeng. It's the big brain.
Or does it mean that Popeng is going to go top lane and get another kill?
I mean, maybe. It's entirely possible that he just camps the heck out of this top lane. Not even going for the Riptail right now, going for the gold plays. You'll notice the Sly Legos in the area for just a little bit of safety, a little bit of vision around this top side. I certainly do expect them to continue playing aggressive around it, because Aatrox is somebody who can very quickly take over a game in a similar way to Silas, but I want to say that Bruiser's exceptional at it.
Look at this top lane here, dear.
Board's about to expire. They don't know Sly Legos here, but they do know Popeng is there, so no approach should come in from I'm Bad, You're Awful.
He's walking under the turret. That's just as bad. Galio's here as well. This could very well go very wrong very soon, very quick.
I did not know that Sly Lego was around, but it is certainly not going to be a death sentence. Just add to the death sentence. Good shutdown comes in for I'm Bad, You're Awful, but he was dead either way. It was good though.
Picks a kill up for his issues.
1v3.
Right? 1v3, exactly.
0 and 3 Aurelia, just 1v3.
And I mean, let's remember there was a turret there. Here, let's give a little bit of credit to the 200-300 damage every 2 seconds, every second coming out of the turret right there. Zemsta is going to be able to continue to wail away at this turret and going to continue to extend his lead.
Look at this assassin bot laner over here. Malala does have backup on the way that is just now spotted, so you got to pull the trigger now as Omega Neuroshock Gaming. 3DD burns his flash for it, but in comes Sky Lego, or Sly Lego, Sky Lego for the moment, denying that. They should settle for 3DD instead, and final auto will belong to Kite Azure, who gets it with that little bit of AoE. Killering comes in to support Torchic, who I think is just going to die anyway. Encore almost takes down Kite Azure, but the damage isn't really there, and it was weird time. I'm unconvinced by that try and outplay.
Yes, I am also unconvinced, but at the end of the day, they have to do something, right? So that the nature, in general, of 4v5s is that you want to get an early game lead. If you don't get an early game lead, you are really scuppered for the most part here. Because if you get the early game lead, there's a chance that your gold lead can start to extend beyond the limits of what the enemy team are getting, and then you still have that chance to make it happen. As soon as you get to late game, you enter that 4v5 situation, and you are a member down. And at this, and in the late game stage, it just means everything. And Popeng is just bullying Torchic down on the bot side here. Has got flash and yeah, that's the flash off for you. 3DD as well in the jungle. They should actually be careful. They're taking the turrets left, right, and center. Kindred is just mopping up farm. And at this point, it's all his jungle. There is no enemy jungle right now. So even without mid-tier 1 falling, they just have free reign of roaming around.
Yeah, and I want to point out, coupled with the fact that we were talking about the gold advantage, that it matters, of course. It's always going to matter for the game. It doesn't necessarily represent how much Omega Neuroshock Gaming are behind in their individual lanes, because you've got that extra source of income that is just not mirrored on the map. Popeng looking to put even more gold in the coffers. Looks for Killering under his tower, the last tier 1 remaining.
And if anything, it sort of shows you, it just amplifies really that you are even further behind. The fact that you don't have one of your members. You can see basically a 10k gold lead at this point, and if we toggle the gold here just a little bit quickly, Sejuani, even though isn't in the game, is passively gaining some of that gold. So That is 2.3k not in use right now, and wow, okay. Yeah, bullying is the correct word.
Yeah, pops the Lamb's respite for the safety there, but is realistically just going to keep farming these marks as, unfortunately, Vanguard's actually going to go wide again, and it hurts, but to say that it's the determiner in the 1v1 is going to be a little bit of an overstatement. Killering getting pushed in here. Going to take a big chunk of damage from the Tristana Kite. Azure goes aggressive in the top lane and actually might find a kill. Flash for Flash, and another shutdown goes to I'm Bad You're Awful, who's actually been kind of playing out of his mind for those last couple fights.
I mean, like we say, the Aurelia is performing well, but
Yeah.
it's not well enough. It's not going to be enough to counteract the fact that you're 10,000 gold down. And wow.
That's convincing. That's what that is. Good shutdown though for Torchic, as Torchic and I'm Bad You're Awful are going to be the necessary carries this game. I'm not saying hopeful, but I am saying that if Omega want to have a chance of winning, they're going to need to succeed, as it's certainly not coming from the Aatrox. Zemsta pushes his luck a little too hard.
I mean, this Aurelia has some lifesteal with the Vamp Scepters, so trying to go in is going to be quite daunting, especially with Zemsta going for this this Stride Breaker as opposed to a Gold Drinker perchance. And I'm not saying that the Gold Drinker is a better item, but just in terms of the statistics that it provides, you don't have the lifesteal, you don't have the sustain just yet to try and take yourself into that 1 versus 1 after taking an already pretty bad trade. So I'm Bad You're Awful doing his work as the top laner right now, making sure Kindred can't just continuously farm up the camps in the top side, and taking them away from her for herself is definitely what is going to be the sort of situation that puts Neuroshock in a better than awful position.
Better than awful.
Better than awful is still pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not super hopeful ones here.
Campaign stop.
Yeah,
Toxic's had enough.
where this is, at this point, you could have just built a tier and just, everybody builds a tier in solidarity, and you'd still have a pretty massive gold lead. So kind of sad we're not seeing Glacial Esports mourn it, or Omega Neuroshock. We're just hanging out here with our relatively unimpressive items, I was gonna say. I mean, I saw the Gale Force, I saw the Moonstone, but who are you keeping alive through the burst? It's a tough one, to be sure. And Glacial Esports are having fun in the best way they know how, and Omega Neuroshock, I think that they've got to do similarly right now, because again, they've chosen to continue playing this game, so you got to enjoy playing League of Legends to some extent.
That's pretty much what they're going to be going for here, the full fun element. Truly resonating with Omega Neuroshock right now. Unfortunately, they're maybe not quite feeling it now that they've continued to play it out. Particularly, I feel like Torchic is getting absolutely harassed down from the AD carry role. Peng is just simply taking every single fight possible up against this Jinx. And with 2 now completed items on the Kindred, it's not really going to be close. Jinx is going to need a reset for anything convincing to look like it'll go her way, and who is Jinx resetting off in these fights? It's going to be somebody vastly overextending. It's going to be somebody near the Aurelia, but at this point the Aurelia is just trying to split push and take 1v1s because that's where she's going to exceed in this game. So it's pretty difficult in general for the Jinx to get anywhere near off the ground.
She's sitting on just that Gale Force, as that's not going to be nearly enough into Aatrox, is forcing everybody out of the jungle. Glacial Esports still with that press into the bot lane right now. Surprised they haven't broken the base yet, but we are only at the 17-minute mark, and hey, Shelly might do it, as nobody can really 1v1 Peng right now, who's going to be escorting that monster into the bot. The question is whether mid will be broken first, and with everybody rotating over, it doesn't seem like it, although Lamalala goes back. This could be a friendly little competition here.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing that you'll have to play by play right here, the journey into the base for Glacial Esports, if they choose to maybe try and take this fight up against what is a 4-man stack of Neuroshock.
Peng lives, which is important. Teleport in his back pocket is going to keep him that way, and now They're looking for the engage here. Encore will go wide, but Kaidazur has one of his own and can really look for these kills. But Pang goes aggressive with the Lamb's Respite, is going to get that big heal back at the end, but they're already expended the Dance of Arrows. Forced to use the flash as the Encore gets returned. Finally, Torchic will fall, and this is the explosive teamfight Glacial we're looking for. The one that is going to break the base and break the game completely over as they run into the base, don't lose a single member, and now can push down this inhibitor.
That is going to be the mid lane inhibitor falling. They have the option of going for Nexus turrets. They also have the option of going for bot lane. It looks like it's going to be the former. It looks like Glacial are going to waste no time at all and try to put the finishing touches into this game, this series, and Neuroshock's chances at any chance of Divine League success.
This is Glacial Esports taking down the Nexus here, and an unfortunate loss for Neuroshock Gaming, but not one that was unprecedented, as Glacial have looked strong, and Omega Neuroshock, without a player, are not going to be taking a game away from them.
No, it's a pretty much foregone conclusion. I don't think that anybody was going into a 4v5 anticipating that Neuroshock could maybe try and turn this game back around here. So either way, going to be a quick 2-0 for Glacial, and that does have good implications for them here. I'm unsure of how the other side of the bracket has gone, so the other two teams in this group. I'm not quite sure how that one has played out, but presumably Synthetics had gone for or have succeeded in the 2-0 once again here, and that should put a pretty big stress on Akuma Claymores right here, because now their destiny is also out of their own hands right here. They pretty much go into third place. I feel like they need to beat Synthetics tonight. If they don't, then it's pretty much curtains for them.
Yeah, I like what you say. Crucially, they do move themselves up here, so congratulations to Glacial Esports for being able to accomplish their goal tonight of moving themselves into that effective third place. We should see, or I want to say we should, based on tonight's results, be able to see them in the playoffs, but that is going to be left to the last couple weeks of the Risen Divine League, which, if you liked what you saw today and or wanted to see an actual full game series, then you should absolutely tune back in here at Risen Esports, because week 6 is just exactly 7 days away, Rudude, and we just might be here for that one. As hopefully everybody will be able
Maybe.
to attend with their internet being, you know how Spectator broke yesterday, and
Hmm.
now that it's tragedies everywhere. We do appreciate everybody, of course, for sticking with us, and appreciate the fact that Omega Neuroshock did choose to play it out, because it was fun, and it's nice for them to be able to go up against Glacial. Glacial, of course, performing quite well. Congratulations to them, and thank you, Rudude, for hanging out with me in casting these couple of games. I want to throw a shout out to our producer Caddy as well, who has been silently in the background, but we couldn't have done this without him in every way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks to everyone all around. Thank you very much to all the guys at home as well. And I'm going to thank you as well, dear, for being a beautiful host and play-by-play.
I got you. Well, we're going to send this to a break and send you to bed, Rudude, as we will catch you next time on the Risen Divine League, and I look forward to it. See you.